welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are going to go over my October wrap up and all my thoughts and ratings for my books. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also turn on notifications so you guys can be updated every single time I upload. And I'll also have all of my social media accounts linked down below, including my Goodreads, so you guys can follow my reading journey. And that is about it, and with that being said, let's get right into the video. So the first book that we're going with is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by B.E. Schwab. This was one of my most anticipated reads of 2020, so you guys know I was really excited for this book. It is set in 1714, and I'm pretty sure, we are following Addie, and she is a girl who feels like she has not fully lived her life to the fullest potential. She's very disappointed of how things are run in those times. You know, how you're destined to marry and be a housewife and have kids. And she, on top of that, is set up in an arranged marriage, and in a desperate attempt to flee that marriage, she makes a deal with a dark entity, also known as probably the devil, and in exchange for her to live the life that she seeks, he gives her immortality, but she has to give away her soul once she's done living her life. So ultimately she becomes immortal, and the only catch there is that no one can remember her. So you can meet her, but the second you take your eyes off of her, you have no recollection of ever seeing her. And so she can't live a normal life. She's just kind of a ghost walking in, just living a life, kind of a spirit from the outside, because she has no one to love and she can't be loved. And so the devil, or the dark entity, which is also named Luke, every anniversary he visits her to see if she has grown tired of this lonely and vacant life and see if she can turn her soul into him now. But of course she's stubborn and she has a weird relationship with Luke, and so she never wants to give in, I guess. And we follow her through 300 years. So then it's kind of set in the present, 2014, where she meets a boy in a bookstore named Henry, and he ultimately becomes the boy that she has a romance with because he ends up remembering her, which is like the first time ever. So that was the long explanation. I ended up giving this book a 4. I almost wanted to give it a 3.5, but I think it's because I went in with different expectations as to why it wasn't my favorite. It's not a bad book. It is memorable for sure. It's very somber. It's sad at many points because you're dealing with all of, you know, Addie's successes and failures, and you really feel for her for this lonely life. But the romance in this book with Henry, I thought Henry on his own was a very good character. I think the anxiety and depression portrayed with him was great, was on point. But him with Addie, that romance, I didn't really see it. I felt no chemistry. I wasn't excited for it at all. I was more into the chemistry with her and Luke, which is the dark entity, and I really wanted to see further of that, and it just didn't go that way. And so I was a little bit disappointed by this book. I almost wanted to give it a 3.5, but I'm gonna give it a 4 just because it did hold my attention, and it's something I will remember. Will I ever go back and read it again? Probably not. And it's not necessarily what I expected from this book, but I still enjoyed it. Alright, next up we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is another book that I was really excited to pick up and read. We are following Alex, and she is a really troubled young adult who's had a very difficult childhood, and she's also the sole survivor of a horrible massacre. And so as a result of that, she gets a full ride to Yale to join one of the secret societies there. obviously once she gets there, not everything is what it seems, and the secret societies are basically based on dark magic, and the reason she's in the 9th one, it's because it's more of a security police type of house, so she's just there to keep the other societies in check. It also has sort of a mystery. You're trying to find out what happened to her the night of the massacre, and you're also trying to figure out a murder that happened to a girl really close to campus. So she's trying to figure that out while you're trying to figure out what happened to her the night of the massacre. And overall, it was interesting. I liked it. I will say that I had to push through like the first 150 pages because it was so slow, and I was like, well, where are we getting? Are we getting anywhere? So I have to give it a 3.5. It had really interesting sections, and then it would like slow down and would go into the slump where you were just reading almost nonsense, I want to say. I don't know. The mystery was interesting. Was it the best mystery? No, not really. I didn't really care about the girl who had died. I had never met her, and so to me it was kind of like I had no emotion towards it. The end was good. It was strong. Not the best ending, you know, nothing totally captivating. I know it tried to kind of be like, boom, there's the end, and it wasn't that. And Alex as a character, she never really grabbed me. I was never really interested in her story whatsoever. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I know there is a sequel coming out. I believe the way it ended, there should be a sequel. I will continue it just because I do like to continue the series that I start, but am I super like hyped about it? Not really. Next book that I have in my pile is Horrified by Katrina Leno, and I give this book a 4 out of 5. It was a pretty interesting, typical haunted house vibes type of book. Nothing extremely unique, but it wasn't bad. So we're following Jane. Is it Jane? I think it's Jane. Yeah, and she is a girl from California who recently lost her dad, and they go bankrupt, and so she and her mom have to relocate to, I think it's a small town in Maine. I'm not sure. I think so. And they're going back to her mom's childhood home where there's like a lot of secrets going on, and the house is or might be haunted. And so I'm not going to say much about it because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's basically, you know, family secrets, ghosts, pretty much it. There is some kind of uncomfortable scenes, I will say that. But overall, I thought it was a solid, good read. I'd enjoyed it. It's not overly unique. I kind of knew what was going on. Like by the half of it, I was sort of aware, not really, but kind of. So I give it a 4 out of 5. It's not like the best horror book I've ever read, not like Home Before Dark. That was really good. But I give it a 4 out of 5. It was good and I enjoyed it, and I really like the vibes of the small town. She getting a job like at a bookstore. She's being very into like books. I really enjoyed that. So I give it a 4 out of 5. Alright, next book is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, and I have so many feels about this book, and I almost feel like I'm gonna get backlash because of this. I mean, not because I get so many views, but still. So I've seen so many reviews on this book on Goodreads and even here on YouTube, and everybody seems to give it a 5 out of 5, and I'm just like, how? Like, did we even read the same book? So in this book, we are following Yadriel, who is a trans boy, and he comes from a family of brujos and brujas, which is like witches and warlocks, and even though his entire family sees him as a witch because he was born a she, he really wants to prove himself and show his family that he's actually a warlock and that he is a boy, that he feels a boy and wants to be a boy and is a boy. So we are following kind of that journey of him trying to prove himself to his family, which was really good plot. And we also see that we're also following the mystery of his dead cousin who died. Obviously, dead cousin. Okay. So he's trying to figure out what happened to his cousin, and he accidentally brings out the spirit of another boy, which is Julian, which I loved. Julian character was awesome, and he's kind of this bad boy who died, and they're trying to also figure out not entirely what happened to him, but he's trying to like make sure his family is good and his friends are okay so he can go to the afterlife. That's kind of the premise of the book, except Jadriel sort of falls in love with Julian, so it's hard for him to wanna let him go to the afterlife and prove himself a real brujo warlock. So my problems with this book. Overall, the story, it's interesting. I gave it a 3 out of 5. You know, obviously I like the representation of this book. I liked the culture. I liked the Dia de los Muertos themed. I really enjoyed that. But I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I think for like the first, I want to say almost 50 to 60 pages, I knew what was happening. I knew who the party responsible for everything was. I knew. I didn't understand how Jadriel didn't see it. And I was just sort of reading it like, I know exactly what's going on. I know what happened to Julian. I know what happened to Miguel. I know who's behind all of this. And I was so concerned about another situation in the book that it lost me for a minute, because I was like, what are they doing? They need to figure this out because this is happening. I can't explain it without spoiling it, but overall, I knew what was happening. I cannot imagine someone reading this and not knowing. It's sort of just confusing. That's one thing. Another thing that I was really upset about, and that it just kind of hit home, and I didn't like that. I don't know in what chapter, but overall, Julian at one point wants to go to the afterlife. He's done, you know, he just really wants to be done with this whole adventure, and he no longer wants to take part of anything. And so Jadriel says that, okay, like he's ready to let Julian go, but the only disappointment thing is that the minute where he releases Julian's spirit to the afterlife, he will never be able to come back and visit on Dia de los Muertos, because Julian, it's not a brujo or a bruja, a witch or a warlock. And I did not like that. The book really made it seem like the Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, was only for witches or warlocks or people that practice dark magic, and I didn't like that. Because in at least my culture, Dia de los Muertos is a really beautiful holiday where you celebrate the people that you've lost, and in theory you have this sort of thought that they do come and visit you on those days. And so the fact that this book, there's like, well, they can only visit if they were witches or warlocks, I was thrown off by that, and I didn't like it. So, and also the romance between them, I didn't see it. I think at the end they told themselves they liked each other, and that was that. But overall, this was not a good book. I only gave it a 3 out of 5 because of the representation, the culture, and you know, talking about Dia de los Muertos, but I didn't like how it was executed. So this was a huge disappointment. Alright, the next book we have here is Mystery by Stephen King. I'm not really going to go much into it because I feel like we all know the storyline behind this, but this is about an author named Paul who writes these novels about a woman named Mystery, and he finds himself in a car accident in a very like in the middle of a storm, and he gets saved by his #1 fan, Annie. And Annie turns out to be a huge fan of him, and did I say that already? I think I did. I'm sorry. And she is just obsessed with him. loves the book's mystery. Her whole life kind of revolves around the books, and the last book he wrote, she's not happy with it because he killed Mystery. So she's really upset, so she holds him hostage until he writes the book that she wants, which is Mystery's Return. Overall, it was a really good read. 4 out of 5. I really loved Annie. Annie was such an awesome character. The only reason it's not a 5 out of 5 is because we get a lot of dialogue just between Paul himself, obviously because he's been like captured and there's no one to talk to except Annie. So the dialogue between himself and his thoughts was not the most interesting part, and also we get a lot of parts of just him writing Mystery's Return, and like, I don't know if you guys can see it here, but this is like Mystery's Return's storyline, and those chapters that were about the book I didn't really care because I wanted to know what was happening between Paul and Annie. Like, I wanted more action on that, and I didn't really care about the book, so that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5 out of 5. But I still very much enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend it as a great October read. And I ended up watching the movie, and the movie was just fantastic. The movie was amazing. I think it was perfect. Alright, next up we have Wilder Girls by Rory Power, and this is a book that I have been excited to read for a long time because a lot of people were kind of hyping it up. I know it's an old book, but it's I consistently see it in like TikToks and Reels on Instagram, and so I just wanted to pick it up, and it ended up being a little bit disappointing for me. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 because the story overall is very interesting. So we're following, what's her name? I can't remember her name. We're following Byatt. Yeah, we're following Byatt, and she is in an all-girls boarding school when there's like a plague that hits, like a toxin, and everyone is sort of disfigured in a way, and the plague is kind of killing a girl, one girl at a time, and so you don't know where the plague came from, you don't know what's happening. Her friend ends up disappearing, and she goes on like an adventure to find her. Overall, I thought the story was really strong. I really liked these type of stories, but I felt like towards the end of the book, absolutely nothing was answered, and I have no idea where the plague came from. I'm not going to say more, but there was also a female-on-female romance, which came out of nowhere, and that romance was not even, I saw no chemistry whatsoever, so that was kind of like, what? Like, where did this come from? So overall, I was a little bit disappointed with this book. Like I said, the plot does seem very interesting. When you read the synopsis, you're like, this is going to be an awesome book. And then you get into it, and it's like so disappointing because you almost feel as if you read something and you still don't know what the heck happened. So 3 out of 5, and it was still an interesting read. I just hoped towards the end I would have gotten answers, and I didn't, which really sucked. So that's that. Next up, we have the Babysitters Coven, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. I really liked the story. It was really sweet and fun. So we are following, I don't know her name, Esme, and she is a babysitter who has powers. And it's just a really fun book. You know, weird things start happening. Dark entities or monsters are trying to like take over. There's like a mystery behind with her mom, and overall I don't want to say much about it because it's very simple. It's just she babysits, she finds out she has powers, she's not the only one, and there's a mystery behind her mom, and she is practicing her magic. So it's very simple premise, and it's nothing overly unique, but I liked how sweet it was, and it was a really easy read. I think I read it in like a night, like maybe 2 nights, and I was done with it, and it was just nice and sweet and sort of a nice palate cleanse from everything I had read. I think I read it like towards the middle of the month, and it was just nice. I really liked all the fashion and all the references to like movies and, you know, fashion. I really liked that. I also really enjoyed the romance in this book, even though it was very short-lived, but I liked it. I wished it had, you know, done something more with that. I would probably have been like a 4 if it had done a little bit more with the romance. Overall, I don't give it a higher rating, not because it's bad, but because I feel like I was a little bit too old for it. I know the second one is coming out December, and I will be picking it up just because it's a nice, sweet book and it's fun to read. So I feel like someone younger than me, maybe a teen, would really enjoy this book. So they would probably rate it like a 5 out of 5, but I'm older, so I'm rating it like a 3.5 out of 5. That seems like a good rating to me. So yeah. And last but certainly not least, we have Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. And this book, we are following Stevie, who gets accepted to a very private academy, and she gets accepted because she is obsessed with a murder and a mystery that happened in that school, and she is just kind of, she knows everything about the mystery, and she wants to go to the school to find out what happened. And when she gets there, weird things start happening, people start dying, and it's just, you are trying to find out what happened with the founder of the school in I think it's like 1736 or something. And so you are, at the same time that you're trying to find out what happened to the founder of the school and his family, you're also trying to find out what is happening in the present. So it's sort of just a mystery thriller. I loved it. I'm in love with it. I already ordered the second and the third one, and I think this was one of my best reads of the month. And I know it seems like really Truly Devious was the best one. Yes, it was. So I give it a 4 out of 5. 4.5, sorry. 4.5 out of 5. I loved it. I would have given it a 5. It would have had a little bit more romance, because I loved the main character, the main character of this book. I loved him. I thought he was like totally cool, and I like fell in love with him. Anyways, so if it had more of him, I would have probably given it a 5. But I'm excited to read the sequel, and this was just really good. I think these are the books that I enjoy the most. Alright, you guys, so after a really long video, I am finally done. I'm super hot in my room. I hope you guys enjoyed this October wrap-up. I feel like it was kind of filled with disappointments, which I feel kind of bad, but I think I've become more picky with what I read, and so I feel like some of these books, I had them so hyped up in my head that once I read them, they were sort of a disappointment. So I think all of them were like, almost all of them was like a 3.5, which kind of sucks. But it's okay, because that's the point of it, you know? That's the point of reading, to see what you like and what you don't like. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. And yeah, stay safe. Today's election day, so cross our fingers for Biden. Please, Lord Jesus Christ. And yeah, I'll catch up with you guys later.